Raj, I'm so excited to be here with you and just talking about AI and the generative AI space. You've been sort of early to a lot of trends, and I mean that in a way that is delivering value and actually talking about the customer experience. And so, in addition to being kind of early to this digital first mindset, you've also been hinting at what like the seeker persona could be. And so you spoke this morning in your keynote talking about your couch shopping experience, but I would love to just hear if you could share with us a bit about what that persona of a seeker is and why it's so important.
Well, Allie, it's great to be here with you and great to be with all of you. You know, this idea of the seeker has been at the heart of my thinking and Bloomreach's thinking now going back many years. And really it came out of an observation that it felt like we were all pretty satisfied searching online for the things that we were doing, but it didn't feel like it comported with the way human beings actually shopped and actually operate and actually solve problems. And so, I decided that I would go interview a whole bunch of our customers. And so I went and did about 100 interviews with chief merchandising officers, chief digital officers, VPs of e-commerce, CMOs, and just sort of start to ask them what they were doing and track the ones that were being successful from the ones that weren't. And the seeker idea really came out of that. It came out of conversations and realizing that, when someone from a Stitch Fix was thinking about the problem, they weren't just thinking about the dress, they were thinking about the entire fashion experience. When I was talking to the folks at Home Depot, they were talking about building a deck. They weren't talking about selling plywood. And even organizations that might have nothing to do with e-commerce, I happen to be involved with the US Tennis Association, and they were talking about the coaching experience. They weren't talking about teaching tennis. And so it just felt like there was something deeper underneath the surface. Yeah. And I came to think of that as the seeker, or somebody looking to find a solution to a problem.
I love it. And it's a more holistic view of the whole e-commerce journey. I so infrequently hear about CEOs like really getting into the trenches and meeting one-on-one with customers, let alone 100 customers. What even inspired you to be that type of CEO?
Well, for one thing, I think, the hubris of feeling like somehow the CEO job is an all-knowing job or a really important job, I just don't view it that way. I think it is just another job, and we have our role to play. But one of the key roles we have to play is to try to get it right, because thousands of people count on us to make good judgments. And what do you want to do if you want to get it right? Well, you want to collect data. So it doesn't feel like the right way to go about that is to just do and assume you're the smartest person in the room, which I certainly am not, but rather to go out and talk to a lot of those people, synthesize the data, and form a point of view. And that was really the motivation for going out on that exploration.
I love it. And you're always talking about the value of data. And so if you're thinking about this seeker persona and this idea that you now have this ripe set of insights, what do you see as how you are now delivering value to that seeker persona, and maybe some new initiatives that you might be working on?
Yeah, I think you raised data, and obviously I'm sure we're going to get to AI, but one of the great things about building a customer-centric experience now is that the data available is vastly different. The inputs are vastly different, right? We used to think of the way by which we would understand our customers as doing focus groups and doing surveys. And now if we think about what we understand about every click and every swipe and every interaction and every voice command, the sheer magnitude of the inputs is vastly different. So now if we think about how do we design customer-centric experience, it's amazing. It's really a matter of whether or not we're willing to listen and then process all of those things and build the methodologies to then create these great experiences.
Also, I love how much you're talking about this holistic view of e-commerce, and you're kind of figuring out what it means to even search now. So moving into this generative AI space, which again, this whole event is really centered around AI. Obviously, you've been a big leader in this space. So I would love to just hear some early use cases that you're thinking through, and maybe what value you're getting out of that.
So, it's interesting. It's been very much an evolution from machine learning to where we are today with generative AI. And in the early days, when we were building Bloomreach as a search engine for e-commerce, the thought process was I would go and talk to CMOs and VPs of e-commerce and say, imagine if your search engine got better while you were sleeping at night.
The dream.
right? You don't have to write a lot of rules.
Anything while I'm sleeping.
Anything while you're sleeping at night where progress is being
Yes,
made.
exactly.
And so that was the original thesis, was just what we would now call reinforcement learning, and being able to take different signals and have that feedback and make the experience better and smarter and smarter and smarter. So from there to where we are today with generative AI and the seeker idea, the thesis is that while the reinforcement learning has been very good at handling these long tail searches where we type in multiple words and, plywood for my deck made of this material of, in areas that might have a lot of rain, these very detailed searches, we've gotten actually pretty good at that. And Google and Bloomreach with e-commerce search, we've gotten pretty good with that kind of intent. But the whole seeker persona is, hey, I'm just trying to solve a problem. I'm trying to build a deck. I'm trying to decorate my living room. I'm trying to buy a gift for a friend. And those kinds of things, I just feel like the internet has failed us, that shopping has failed us. And so if we're really going to get to the heart of what people are seeking, we need some new unlocks. And I think Gen AI opens the door to some super exciting possibilities in that regard.
It's almost like you're redefining the problem space. Like we've heard this in the product management world where you're kind of always going problem first. But it sounds like there's about to be this shift in the e-commerce space that's allowing brands and allowing Bloomreach and their customers to start thinking about problem first search and seeking.
That's right. I mean, I believe that's the right analogy. We've used, we sort of think of Uber as the analogy. We're about to have just as Uber did for cabs, we're about to have that kind of moment for shopping where we redefine the problem. And the way we redefine the problem is, instead of you telling us exactly what you're looking for and us as a shop delivering that to you, which in other words may be called buying or fulfillment, not shopping. Because most of the shopping happens before I translate what's in my mind into
100%.
those 4 or 5 word searches. Now we have the opportunity to play a role in the interactivity throughout the shopping journey, because most things that we buy are not small discretionary purchases. It's not like most of e-commerce is buying staplers online or buying paper or replenishing what I've got. Most of the considered purchases are much deeper than that and much more consequential, in the kind of things we really want to think through in our brain, and then over the span of days, weeks, and even months, translate into a search. And maybe now we have an opportunity to play a role in those. And
so talking a bit about the opportunity that you get to play and thinking about real generative AI use cases when it comes to either the inconsequential or the consequential purchases. There's still purchases regardless. But I would love to just hear how you're really thinking about applying generative AI into these spaces and driving value.
Yeah, so one of the great things about generative AI is just the number of possibilities. So actually the hard thing, I think, for us as tech companies is to pick. Because we could go use generative AI, and we do, for content production. We can go use it for creative. You can go use it for supply chain. You can go use it for fraud detection. There's a million use cases that are out there. But we decided to get to the heart of shopping. We decided that what would be most impactful is if we could take human expertise, which is the thing that is most deeply human, the notion that I can help you because I have a level of domain expertise in the thing that I've been doing. It's deeper than what you may have. And you might want that if you're buying a vacuum cleaner or a car or a couch or a gift. And I can help you achieve your mission of that having been great. It felt to us like we haven't ever had the possibility of translating that degree of depth of human expertise online. And Gen AI opens up that possibility. It finally makes it possible to index the encyclopedic knowledge of the internet into the human brain, map to a connection to another human, and then deliver what one of our customers calls a hand selling model. Literally imagining that you have an internet concierge who can hand sell you a product that's perfect for you. That's where we're trying to get to.
I mean, it also sounds like you're trying to connect two humans, not just a buyer and a seller, which I'm sure is a big part of your ethos and what you guys believe in. In terms of give me like a before and after use case. Like 10 years ago, we used to do it in way X. And because of generative AI, we're allowed to now do way X.
In way Y. Well, we've recently gone out and put a demo out there around wine buying that we have built in conjunction with Total Wine. And the idea of wines were kind of overwhelming. Not even 10 years ago, you would walk into a wine store, and unless you were an expert and had done a lot of research, you'd literally walk into the store and see 8,000 bottles of wine and say, where do I start?
Other than price and color, I don't think I had much to say. In that
Exactly.
space.
And you would rely largely on the person behind the counter, if you got the right person, to help you through that process. And in an establishment like Total Wine, they're really knowledgeable. But we all have had experiences, especially as labor costs have gone up and there's fewer and fewer people in stores, where sometimes we don't have a great experience, when we walk into the store. Sometimes we don't encounter the most knowledgeable person. Well, what if we could get that most knowledgeable person who understood wines and put that person's expertise online so that I can have a chat-based experience? They would know what my budget is. They would know that I'm serving steak for dinner. They would know that, my friends happen to like rosé. They would know that the rest of the meal is Spanish or whatever it might be. And in that conversation, the quality of the bottle of wine that then gets recommended to me is unsurpassed. And we can have that quality of experience and interactivity online. That's what it feels like it could feel like. Now, I think that's the beginning. That's what's possible in the next year or 2 years. 5 years from now, we have another level, to get to.
I also, there's one, nuance of what you just brought up that is such an important part of generative AI, which is that I might not even know the questions that I need to ask myself to figure out how to get a better bottle of wine in my hands that I might enjoy even more. Like, I didn't even consider that it might be based on what friends are there. Maybe I was selfish and just thought about what wine I wanted. And so even as this expanding of what it means to be shopping, are you seeing that come up?
No doubt. One of the design principles in this new product clarity that we have launched today is, I've been telling our product and engineering team, I want you to get much better at asking the customer questions and not just responding to the customer's questions. So much of the paradigm around Gen AI and certainly chatbots has been, I'm going to sit back, you're the customer, you ask me questions, and then I'll give you responses. Well, that's exactly not what conversations are. Conversations have prompts. Conversations have triggers. I see how you respond to something, and then I ask you another question. I ask you a follow-up to the thing you just said. So much of I think what the opportunity is in interactivity is great question asking. I can see the Gen AI generate the question that you should have asked me, but didn't. And that helps you clarify what you should be shopping for.
And there's tons of benefits. It's clarification. It's getting more data on that user and figuring out how can you really help that customer fulfill their desire. It probably makes them feel more involved in the shopping process and not just funneled through toward some end product.
Totally.
So it's lifting really in all these aspects of shopping.
We can use a really practical example. One of the most common things that an e-commerce business does is it looks at what you added to cart. And if you didn't buy that thing, it sends you an email later on and it says, hey, why didn't you buy this thing? Or have you considered this thing? Now, imagine that's what happens today. We all get emails like that. We wonder where they come from, and they come from a triggered event that comes from a cart. Well, what if instead of doing that, we actually asked you a question? We said, well, did you not buy this because the size wasn't right? Or did you not buy this because the price wasn't right? Or are you thinking about I saw that you looked at a different style but didn't add it to cart. So imagine the degree of interaction we could have on that simple example that happens thousands of times every day.
I love that. And you're almost like baking in explainability. Like every analytics person probably just heard what you said and said, oh my God, I need that product today.
That's right. That's right. Explainability, I feel like is the heart of it. I mean, again, coming back to a human context, if I don't really trust why you're giving me the answer you're giving me, would I ever trust that answer? I probably wouldn't. And so explainability, we think of in an AI sense as this really deep, difficult problem. And it is technically a difficult problem to solve, but it's an essential human need.
You've touched on so much, and I want to dive deeper into that trust piece. I think a lot of how you build your business, and even just in our conversations and in your keynote today, you're clearly a very human and empathetic leader. And so as you're thinking about the world of generative AI and trust, Could you share a bit about maybe your philosophy around how you're building trust into these systems, how you're maintaining trust with your users? You're such a thought leader in this space, and so giving people advice on how to balance these two.
Well, look, I think it starts, one of the key decisions that Bloomreach made was we're going to be focused on incredible experiences. We're not going to be focused on ads and ad-based monetization. And as a result of that, we don't really worry about third-party cookies. We don't really worry about third-party identifiers. We're in the business of generating great experiences because you log in and you want those experiences. And I think that's the core of trust. I feel like a lot of the conversation in data privacy and data trust has been around collection of data. And I think the more interesting question is the responsibility we have around the use of the data. Because to use two examples that are very familiar to us, we all get pretty upset when, to pick on Facebook collects our data and we intended to connect with our friends, and they happen to use that data to create random targeted ads for stuff that I wasn't interested in. Because I didn't get on Facebook for that reason. I got on Facebook or Instagram to connect with my friends, not to be targeted to in an unusual way. But on the other hand, we don't get upset at Apple when they collect our data and they generate a route for my route to work, or Spotify when they recommend songs for us. Now, why is that? Because the data use is consistent with my intention. And I think that's the heart of how we at Bloomreach think about the data, which is, if we're doing something that betters your life, that's consistent with your intention, then we're doing the right thing. If we're doing something that you think you're coming to us for reason A and I'm monetizing you on reason B, that sucks. That's not trustworthy.
I mean, there's incentive alignment between both of these sides, where you're kind of the bridge between the two, saying, am I delivering value for you? And am I delivering value for you? And where does that really match up?
That's right. And, so much of internet business models have the wrong set of incentives.
Yeah.
I think what we can be committed to is the right set of incentives, which is sort of like, let's use the data to make experiences better, which will create more loyal shoppers, which will benefit the brands, which will benefit the consumers, and certainly will benefit Bloomreach in that process. And that's the triangle that has to work for this all to work.
That is such a fantastic point to end on. I mean, I love so much of what you shared. Holistic leadership and also holistic shopping experiences, the importance of having the human be that expertise provider, and talking about how that can actually reflect on the whole shopping experience. And then, of course, just what you just shared at the end, the importance of maintaining trust, understanding why someone is actually coming to you in the first place, and making that experience that much better. So thank you so much. Really appreciated the chat.
Thanks, Allie. Thanks for being a thought leader in this space.